We've been told that happiness is waiting somewhere in the future. Get the right job, find the right partner, earn enough money, build the life you imagined. Then everything will finally feel right. So we treat happiness like a project. We chase it, measure it, and keep checking whether we have reached it yet. But when we finally get what we wanted, something strange happens. The promotion feels exciting for a while. The new relationship changes the way we feel. The goal gives us a brief sense of satisfaction. Then the feeling fades. The new life becomes normal, and before long, we start looking for the next thing. Why does happiness disappear so quickly? Viktor Frankl spent much of his life answering this question. Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist and the founder of logotherapy, a psychological approach centered on meaning. During the Second World War, he survived several Nazi concentration camps. He lost his parents, his brother, and his pregnant wife. In the camps, he saw people stripped of almost everything. Their possessions were taken. Their names were replaced with numbers. Their futures could disappear without warning. Frankl never claimed that meaning alone determined who survived. Hunger, illness, violence, and pure chance played massive roles. But he noticed that a reason to keep going could still make the ultimate difference. One person held on to the thought of seeing someone they loved again. Another thought about unfinished work. Someone else found purpose in helping the person beside them. Meaning did not remove their suffering. It gave them a reason to carry it without letting it destroy the final part of them that was still human. This became the center of Frankl's philosophy. He believed we are not primarily driven by the pursuit of pleasure. We are driven by what he called the will to meaning. We need a reason to wake up in the morning. We need something worth taking seriously. We need to feel that our lives are pointing somewhere. This is where Frankl deeply disagreed with the way modern culture thinks about happiness. He believed happiness cannot be pursued directly. The harder you chase it, the more it slips away. Frankl called this trap hyperintention. Whenever you try too hard to force a psychological state, you make it harder to reach. Think about laughter. If someone points a camera at you and says, "Laugh right now," the result will probably feel awkward and fake. Genuine laughter needs a reason. Someone has to tell a joke. Happiness works the exact same way. You cannot command yourself to feel happy. You need a reason to feel it. When you constantly ask yourself, "Am I happy yet?" you stop living your life and begin evaluating it from a distance. The meal is not enjoyable enough. The holiday is not relaxing enough. Your career is not fulfilling enough. You are no longer present. You are just checking whether each experience has produced the feeling you expected. Frankl's solution was to stop treating happiness as the target. Happiness is a side effect. It appears quietly when you become absorbed in something worth doing, someone worth loving, or a responsibility worth carrying. When that meaning is missing, pleasure often becomes a cheap substitute. Frankl called this emptiness the existential vacuum. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer famously noted that humanity seems doomed to swing back and forth between two extremes: the distress of struggling to survive and the crushing boredom of having everything we need but nowhere to put our energy. Frankl saw this clearly in what he called Sunday neurosis. During the week, your schedule keeps you occupied. Work, errands, and responsibilities fill your attention. Then the weekend arrives. The structure disappears, the noise becomes quieter, and an uncomfortable question rises to the surface. What am I doing all of this for? That question triggers anxiety, so we try to silence it. We scroll, shop, binge watch, drink, or fill every empty moment with sound. Frankl believed this widespread lack of meaning is the root cause of society's darkest issues: depression, addiction, and aggression. But an existential problem cannot be solved with more stimulation. Boredom is a signal. It tells you that your life contains activity, but not direction. Modern culture tells us we should fix this by aiming for a completely relaxed, stress-free life. Frankl disagreed. He believed a tension-free life is actually unhealthy. Of course, constant anxiety is destructive, but a person still needs a reason to stretch beyond their current condition. There must be a healthy tension between who you are now and the task waiting for you. This is not the stress of panic. It is the tension created by purpose. Mental health does not always come from removing every struggle. It often comes from knowing which struggle is worth accepting. So how do you find meaning? Usually, we look up at the sky and ask the universe, what is the meaning of life? Frankl compared this to asking a chess grandmaster, what is the best move in the world? There is no universal answer. The right move depends entirely on the board in front of you. Meaning works the same way. Your answer depends on your circumstances, your abilities, and the responsibility waiting for you in this exact moment. We spend too much time asking, what do I expect from life? Frankl wanted us to reverse the question. What does life expect from me right now? Life is not one grand question. It is a series of questions. Maybe you need to finish something. Maybe you need to apologize. Maybe you need to leave a situation you have tolerated for too long. Or maybe you need to accept something you cannot repair and continue living with dignity. Every day, your actions become your answer. Frankl pointed to three main paths to find these answers. The first is creation. Meaning can come from what you contribute to the world. It might be your work, a problem you solve, a family you care for, or a quiet task you complete properly even when nobody is watching. Your work does not need to make you famous. Meaning is never measured by attention. The second path is experience. Meaning comes from what you allow yourself to receive from life. A conversation, a piece of music, a quiet walk, or a moment you actually stop long enough to notice. And above all, love. Frankl believed love allows you to see another person more deeply than analysis ever could. To love someone is not simply to enjoy the way they make you feel. It is to recognize their unique existence and the person they are still capable of becoming. Love pulls your attention beyond your own ego. The third path is the hardest. It is your attitude towards suffering. Some situations can be changed. A destructive job can be left. A boundary can be set. A problem with a solution can be confronted. Frankl was not telling people to accept preventable suffering. Enduring avoidable pain is masochism, not meaning. But some forms of suffering cannot be removed. Illness, loss, a mistake you cannot undo, the fact that your life is finite. When the situation cannot be changed, a different question remains. How will you carry it? You might not control what happened, but you possess the ultimate human freedom to choose how you respond. Frankl called this the freedom to take a stance. It is not unlimited freedom. You do not choose every circumstance, and you cannot control other people, history, illness, or death. But even when your choices become narrow, they still matter. In the exact same brutal conditions of the camps, Frankl watched some men behave like swine, betraying others for a crust of bread, while others behaved like saints, comforting people and giving away their last meal. The environment didn't dictate who they were, it simply revealed the choice they made. Pain can make you bitter. It can leave you numb. It can spread into the lives of everyone around you. Or you can refuse to let suffering decide the kind of person you become. This is where responsibility enters Frankl's philosophy. We love to talk about our freedom, but Frankl warned that freedom without responsibility turns into chaos. He famously joked that because the United States has a Statue of Liberty on the East Coast, it desperately needs to build a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast to balance the equation. Freedom is not simply the ability to do whatever you want. Freedom is the ability to answer life. To answer clearly, Frankl believed we need distance from our own minds. He called this self-distancing. You are not identical to every thought you have. Fear can be present without making your decisions. Anxiety can be loud without defining your identity. Hopelessness can feel convincing without becoming a fact. When you step back and observe your thoughts instead of obeying them automatically, they lose their power. This leads to one of Frankl's most important ideas, self-transcendence. You do not find yourself by staring at yourself endlessly. You find yourself by going beyond yourself. That might mean serving another person, completing a difficult task, or caring about something larger than your mood. We often believe we need to fix ourselves completely before we begin living. First, become confident, heal every insecurity, find endless motivation, stop feeling anxious, then start. Frankl would say this approach keeps you trapped. You do not always need to feel ready. Action often comes first. Meaning gives you a reason to move even when motivation is missing. Frankl called his broader attitude toward life tragic optimism. This does not mean pretending everything happens for a reason. It does not mean smiling through pain or forcing yourself to feel positive. Tragic optimism means continuing to live fully while accepting that life contains suffering, guilt, and death. Pain can reveal courage. Guilt can become a reason to change. And death? Many people assume mortality makes life meaningless. What's the point if it all ends anyway? Frankl argued the exact opposite. If you had unlimited time, every choice could be delayed. You could make the phone call tomorrow, begin the project next year, and become serious about your life later. But your time is limited. Every day contains possibilities that disappear forever when the day ends. Death is the deadline that forces us to act. It is exactly what gives your decisions weight and urgency. A meaningful life is not always a pleasant life. Your feelings are not the only measure of whether your life matters. Meaning is deeper than mood. This is the part modern culture often misses. We are constantly told to ask how we feel. Frankl gives us a harder and far more useful question. What deserves to be done? Stop checking whether every experience makes you happy. Stop waiting for the perfect job, the perfect relationship, or the perfect healed version of yourself to arrive. Look at the life right in front of you. What is asking for your attention? What needs to be changed? What must be accepted? Which responsibility have you been avoiding? Happiness is not a prize waiting at the end of the road. It appears quietly when you stop chasing the feeling and begin answering the demands of your life. Find the task. Find the person. Find the reason. Then, take the next step.